Today's guest works at the intersection of creativity, clarity, and identity, and she has a gift for helping people discover the message they were meant to carry. Brynn Breuner translates vision into words. She's a brand strategist with more than 30 years of experience in design, messaging, and entrepreneurship. Over 5 years as a TEDx speaker coach, and she's a champion of what she calls polyminds, the multidimensional thinkers who don't fit neatly into one lane. Brynn helps entrepreneurs uncover the big idea at the heart of their work, the truth everything else flows from. Brynn, welcome to Project Candor. I'm so glad you joined us.
Thank you, Jeanne. I'm so glad to be here.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling full of beans, to be honest. Life is good, and I'm happy to be talking to you about it.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to get to know you a little bit before we play our Two Truths and a Lie game. But are you ready for any question I'm going to throw your way?
Bring it on.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with the first one. You help people articulate the big idea at the heart of their work. When someone comes to you with a message that feels tangled or unclear, where do you start? What's the first thread you pull?
That's such a great question. The first thread you pull. Actually, what I have to do first is I have to kind of gather all the threads. So a client that I was just working with this morning does this incredible work with Gestalt therapy and horses and figuring out the words to combine those. And what she does is kind of a really typical problem for me. It's funny because she started by saying, oh, I feel like I just blabbed a lot. And so the first step is actually to let my people blab a lot. And I'm listening for certain things. So when I find that thread that needs to be pulled, then I can tug on it. But it's like, not just what do you do and how did you come to it, but I'm listening underneath their words for this unique kind of knack that they have that they might not even see themselves.
That's an excellent answer. You just expanded on it by saying you look at all the threads. That's amazing. I hadn't thought about it that way, that you were more than one thread. But that's your polymind.
Well, it's like looking at the flowers behind me, like people's threads are really, we're all bouquets. And I have to sort of perceive or take in the entire bouquet of a person before I can. And a lot of times when I'm listening to them, I've got my eyes closed because I really want to hear what they have to say. I want to really hear. And then I'm like, okay, now hold on a second. And so your words are perfect. What thread do you pull? And then it becomes a conversation. And then a lot of times when I'm asking, is that it? Was that it? I'm listening for kind of accuracy in their words. I'll give you an example. This morning, the client that I was working with, she was talking about, like, I need to work on my visibility. And so I think I need to just say something to you, Jeanne. I've realized in the last year or so that language actually comes into me as true or not true. Like, no, that's not it. Almost like when you go to the eye doc and you get your eyes checked and he's like, 1 or 2, better or worse. I'm looking for the truth of a person's actual language. So she was saying blah, 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 visibility. And for me, there was nothing there. Like visibility sounded like blah, 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 blah. But as I tapped into kind of who she was, like, oh, you just want to get on stages and be your truest self. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. She goes, yeah, the truth of her wants to stand out and be seen. And it's like, and we can call that visibility, I guess. So I'm interested in the truth of language, and it comes in almost like, what do they say in music? In tune, like your voice is on key. Do they say on key?
On key, in tune, yes.
Yeah, one of those things. And so I'm looking for words that are on key. And it's an energetic thing, I think, not a sound thing. Let me go a little bit further into that. So when people come to me for help with the words, they think, like, just tell me what to say. And all of us who do a service-related job have a version of just tell me what to say or do, or like just do it, right? Just mow my lawn, make the front of my house look good. And there's nothing wrong with that. I call that kind of the magic bullet solution. Just give it to me. Like, wouldn't I love to have a chef come to my house and just cook for me? Yes, I could learn more about nutrition and cooking and get better at that, and learn how to like flip the skillets like they do on TV. So all of us want, just do it for me, that kind of a thing. And so in the word kind of field that I'm in, sure, they just like tell me what to say because it's so hard for them. And the truth is that we get to what to say in several different levels. And one of those is pulling the threads that you were talking about. But there's a much more important one. Can I talk about that?
Well, yes, but I wanted to say something before you go too far. I like the way you describe people as being bouquets.
Yeah.
I really love that concept. And I just wanted to say that I had never thought of myself like that, but if I could be like Peach Rose's bouquet, I would love that.
Why?
I like roses. I like the smell of them. I like the look of them, and I like the color, coral or peach or whatever. So I
Mhm.
would just like to be that. Unfortunately, the thought of them as well is that they wilt really fast.
Let's hold on a second. So when I think of a peach, like a sherbet colored rose, and I smell it, I can almost smell that and have that feeling in the back of my throat, like when you smell that in, it's so fresh, and the little part of the rose where it kind of bends before it flares out, it's so pert and perfect and full of kind of vitality. So I feel like there's lots of reasons to want to be a bouquet of peach roses, and just like it's a life source, and I could see you reflected in that. That's a good pick.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But that just resonated with me when you said everyone's a bouquet, and so you had to listen for all the well, there's petals, there's stems, there you have to listen through all of that. That's nice. I like that. All right, so you keep going.
Yeah, let me just talk about this bouquet thing because I think it's important, especially for people who don't really fit into any kind of a normal box. There's a pressure to say what you do. Like and we don't get to say I'm an optometrist, I'm a florist. We don't get to do something that's that simple. So we have to find something, and a lot of times that finding, like, well, how do I describe what I do? Um, it feels like you're condensing or you're kind of squishing yourself, or you're maybe pruning off pieces of you. Like, I'll have to like cut off my right arm in order to fit into this little thing. So when I'm thinking about bouquets, I'm looking at different aspects of people, sometimes that they don't even see them, well, always that they don't even see themselves. They've either dismissed it or it's like, oh, that's not really a big deal. Like, why should we talk about that? But the truth is in how all of those pieces come together. So it's not just polyminds that are multifaceted people, like we all are. We're all, and I don't really say we're all a bouquet, but we are. And those different stems that are in that are sourced from different pieces of our lives. And all of those have aliveness. And in that aliveness is the truth of a person. And when I can find that, then I can find the language that matches that.
Excellent. I don't know how you would do that though, because, well, that's because you're an expert at this, not me. But I can see where you're going with the bouquet and how everybody had so many different aspects to themselves and so many threads within them. Maybe I should be a mixed flower bouquet with a few peach roses in there. But I don't know how I would listen for all of that. That's amazing. So you often talk about this polymind concept, people who think and create across multiple lanes. How did this concept emerge for you?
Well, that's a good question. It came from the work that I give my people, like any kind of branding or marketing. There's that question, like, who do you serve? Who do you serve? And it's like, and then I say that with an eye roll, like, who do you serve, right? Like, what's your big why? Because they're almost form questions. That you're like, if you could only just figure out that one thing. And so we tend to boil it down like women over 50. And that's not ever kind of a deep enough answer. And the answer to that, who do you serve, is often in the psychographic realm. Like, what are they? Who are they? Like, what do they do with their life? What do they love? What do they hate? What do they, I ask, what are they fascinated by? Mostly because I'm kind of curious. I would like to know. But who do you serve is really kind of, we talk about pain points. I like to talk about pride points. Like, what do they feel really glad about in their life? What are they just psyched that they've been able to do? And that's not, sometimes that's something like a certification or a degree, but mostly it's not. It's kind of hiding in there between maybe the bigger flowers in the bouquet. So who do you serve? And I've come to think lately that oftentimes who we serve, our clients, are when people, they're threshold moments. Like an easy one to think about is like we get our taxes done at tax time. So when do people find you? Like right now, people are finding me when something in their business is changing. So they wouldn't say, I need a rebrand. Like that's how maybe a branding person would think. But my clients aren't thinking that. They're thinking, "Ah, like this shirt feels too small. I've outgrown it, or just kind of scritchy in my, oh boy, I've got that website embarrassed. Like, oh my God, people are going to go look at my website. It's so old, it doesn't reflect who I am anymore. So they've outgrown them something. Or they're like, I want to, this old offer I used to sell just doesn't have any energy for me anymore. I don't want to do it. Or I really want to work with this new market, this new kind of ideal client. Or I want to work for the same kind of client, but at a higher level. So when in the business sense is really potent.
Well, that leads into my next question because you're talking about your clients, and I want to know, why do so many brilliant thinkers struggle to articulate who they are?
Great question. Somebody said to me something this morning, and I have a bone to pick with this phrase: don't overthink it. It's like, how many times do people get told something like, don't overthink it? When I was in college, I was a rower, and we had this little British coach who was a pain in the neck, and he would say, relax. And it's just like, if you could just like relax, people like being yelled at to relax. And it's like, buddy, if I could like slip down to the 7-Eleven and get a 6-pack of relax, I would. So don't overthink it. That's something that we hear and we tell ourselves. Don't overthink it. Don't, like, what does that even mean? I think it means stop being you, stop thinking. Instead of like, if I want to crawl inside the overthinking mind, if I could, I would just like put my hands on their shoulders and say, it's okay. I've got you. You've got you. So overthinking means I don't know what to come forward with first. I've got all these different ideas. I don't know which one is valid. I don't know which one's going to have traction. I don't know what people are going to buy. I don't really know what people are going to need. And so overthinking is asking a lot of questions that you don't have the answers for.
Yeah, that's true, but that's some catchphrase that people say because they don't know what else to say. And they
Well,
don't
yeah.
realize it imprints on people pretty heavily when you say things that are just arbitrary.
I actually think you're right. I think it's a catchphrase we use, but I think of them as license plate phrases. Like, I think authenticity is, for me, a license. Like, let's be authentic. And I feel like it's lost its actual meaning. So that's why, like, I crawled into that phrase, overthink it. And I get, well, what does that actually mean? And then here's the other thing, Jeannie. It's like what that means for me is different than what it means for you, right? So if somebody's, so, and I'm not bashing on anybody who said that. It's just that catch-alls don't really find the truth inside of them. And that's what I'm interested in.
Nice. So you've worked across design, messaging, and entrepreneurship for more than 30 years. So what's one lesson about communication that keeps showing up no matter what industry?
Great question. I think the umbrella for me for all of the things and everything I've ever done is communication. And, people say there's statistics like only 7% of our communication is verbal. The rest of it's body language and kind of mood and the vibe that we give off. So words are limited, words are hard. And especially when you're moving between worlds, not just like English and Spanish, for example, or energy work and engineering. Those would be two fun people to have in a room and try to, or cardiologists and beekeepers. So we all have our own worlds and our own culture and our own language. So when we're trying to communicate with each other, you've probably heard like you have to talk to them like they're a third grader. And I'm not sure that that's actually it. I think we have to talk to each other like we care about being heard, like we care about the other person. Maybe we could go back and use the flower thing. Like when I give somebody some flowers, I want them to feel something as they receive it. Not like, oh, great, walk, here they go into the water. When I give somebody words, I want them to be received in a certain way. And so I'm paying attention to how that person, what kind of a receiver are they? If your musician is talking to a concrete designer, we can't have just music words and concrete words. I want the musician to be listening to that concrete person and sing a song that he or she can hear, and vice versa. I remember once hearing this, or maybe I made it up, I can't remember, but words are like, if you walk inside a cathedral, like one of the cathedrals in Europe, and you look up and it's like, oh, it's just so stunning. And if we could make a cathedral with words so people walk into our brand and look up and go, oh, that's what you have for me? That's what I would like to give people.
That's pretty profound. I never thought of it like that. And just having gone to Sweden last year for Christmas and seen a cathedral that I went in and did exactly what you just said. I think that'd be fantastic if people could.
What was it?
What?
Which cathedral was it?
Well, I would not know if it's called a cathedral. It's an old church, and all of the Swedish churches are all well kept. But you walk in, and the acoustics are great. You have choir singing in the back.
So did you walk in and go?
Yes, I did. I walked in and couldn't believe it. And then all around the wall, I kept staring at everything. They had shields and. I can't say Viking stuff, but it did look like it was shields in there. It was just unbelievable.
Even the walls, plaster or wood.
Oh, they were concrete, just thick. I mean, this thing had been there since 17 or 1800, sometime in that frame. Because the town my husband is from has a castle built by the Danish when they occupied Sweden. So that's how old it is in that area.
Pretty old.
Yeah, and so I get what you're saying, but I get what you're saying, though. That's profound. If you can make your business be that way and people would just look at it like, I'm in awe of you.
So that's what I wanted to say. When you walk into a building like that, it's awe. And I remember reading, there's a guy that wrote a book called Awe. Awe is not a feeling that necessarily has words. So people come to me for help with the words. And it's like, I get that. But the trick to getting the words right isn't figuring it out here. It's getting inside. And that feeling of awe, it belongs in like vast spaces and transformations and sudden epiphanies, and they don't have words. It's just a feeling, right? So if I can match a feeling to the right language, then we can give our clients that feeling too of whatever it is. I just think awe is really cool because it's a speechless, like, wow, I was speechless. And I think that's a super common human feeling, but it's also one that's a universal one and one that's connecting to us. So if you walk into a cathedral, look over the rim of the Grand Canyon or Half Dome, and you're with somebody to share that awe with, that's even better. So you had asked about communication. And I think communication is ultimately connecting, almost like connecting an invisible wire between us. And I think what gets passed along that wire is so important. In fact, it's funny, I was geeking out on one point, investigating lightning. And I remember it said, supercharged air creates a conductive path. And I thought, that's even cool, like a bowling lane, And lightning, and it's like an invisible wire, and lightning jumps across that wire. And now when we're seeing all the Christmas lights coming up, it's like lightning jumps across an invisible wire. And I think that is actually what's going on between human beings. We're making little leaps and connections in all of the ways that we know how to do it. And sometimes it's music, and sometimes it's art, and sometimes it's language, and sometimes it's silence.
You're making me think about a lot of things, and I can't even articulate it now, so here we go. But when I do see things like that church, like you talked about, looking up and seeing awe, I think some people say my mind's blown, but I don't think my mind's blown. I think my mind is going way too fast for me to understand or catch what it's saying because I go into another place.
Maybe it's like there's a little hatch on the top of our heads and it opens up and it's like we burst out of our own beings and we're up in the sky. So maybe that what's mind blown is we're actually just transported.
Right. Yeah, transported, I would say, because I couldn't even describe if you sat me down and said, describe what you saw. I couldn't do it. I could describe the physical surroundings, but like you said, the feeling, I could not really, it would take me a while because it was just beautiful. It was warm. It was amazing.
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah, please do.
Someone I follow on Facebook named Anna Lapwood. And she looks like she's 30 years old, little blonde, glasses. And she drives plays the biggest organs in the world, like St. Albert's Cathedral. And so on her Facebook feed, there's all these like this, it's that cathedral magnificence. And she is up there playing that organ, and she has videos showing how her feet move and all this. So she was at a practice. She was at a rehearsal. And the organ in this particular cathedral is way up high. And she heard some tourist visiting singing. And I think he was singing Amazing Grace. And you watch in her video, and she goes, and she hears him, and she drops in and she starts playing that huge organ with him. He's just singing, like he's a tenor, singing talk that I don't know. He's singing because he feels that awe, right? He's moved to hear. And when kids go, echo, go, echo, like we all do that. Like, oh, there's echo, echo, because we want to hear that resounding return, I guess, the return of sound. So he's singing, and she hears him. She starts playing along, and he stops. He's like, what's going on here? Can you imagine being that guy? And then he starts singing again, and she hears where he is. She picks right up in the song, and now he's singing even stronger. Can you imagine that moment? And afterwards, she left and tried to find him, but he was gone. So it was just this moment where electricity, huge voltage, shoots across the wire and connects two people. And the people that were watching, can you imagine being in that cathedral in that moment when some magic happened? And it's because somebody cared.
That is quite astounding. Do you want to say her name again? Because I want to remember it. I want to go look her up.
Anna Lapwood, Lapwood, Lapwood. And she looks like a kid in a candy shop every time. Like, can you believe I get to do this? And talk about a life filled with joy,
Right. Well, let's keep going. You've got so much interesting information for us and the listeners. So you've spent over 5 years coaching TEDx speakers. What's one transformation you witnessed that stayed with you? A moment where someone stepped into their voice in a way they didn't expect?
I'm thinking of a woman named Marilyn York, and she is a prominent attorney here in Reno. And she got a reputation of being kind of ballsy, no nonsense, direct powerhouse. And she supports a lot of men in custody hearings. She wants to make sure their kids get access to their dads. So her TED Talk was about this, divorce and men's rights and things like that. And you can find that if you Google Marilyn York. And I remember the day that we were in, it's a different kind of a cathedral, like a theater up at the university, where the speakers were practicing. And she stood with her body closed, her hands down. She's wearing this emerald green dress. She's a powerhouse. And I don't remember, it was years ago now, but I don't remember what I actually said, but it's like, be more you, not just use. There's data that shows the more gestures that people use in their TED Talk, the more views it gets. And it's not just like random gestures. And in fact, one of the things we used to tell people is like, they take a step here and then a step there and then a step here. It's like, don't be a metronome, but be human. And she just expanded. And I don't know, Jeannie, I ask people strange questions. It's like, what do you feel like when you're saying that? What do you feel like? To call up the feeling from your body, from what you believe, what you think to be true, that matters so much. That animates your speaking so much more. And it's like she let her rip, and she became really all of herself. And it was extraordinary. And that TED Talk has millions of views, as I think. It's been a while since I looked it up. But to watch people step into their own extraordinariness is a real gift. And the heart of that work is, these are like, people want to do TED Talks. Like, I think of it as like a TED level idea. Ideas worth sharing, as we say in the TED community. They come in with, like, imagine a manuscript with reams and reams of pages. Well, if you're going to boil that down to 8 or 12 or 13 minutes, you got to leave out a lot of stuff. And the leaving out is hard. It's hard for people because those things are leaving out are important to them. They're important to their process or to their own chronology, to their own learning. So to be able to discern what matters and can stay and what matters, and thank you very much, but you don't need to stay in this narrative, is the work.
That's great. I mean, that topic seems like for men it would be super fantastic to hear, and somebody that's very, very knowledgeable. So if she was able to consolidate it and get that message out, that's great. So you're a good team
Yeah,
here.
and she did. So the thing I love about TED is Ted's not afraid of controversy. TED doesn't, and people who are TEDx speakers are often, they're not afraid to go out on a limb that's bucks the convention. It's like, and that's exciting. When somebody brings us a new flavor of an idea and we can see it differently. I was just thinking about this the other day. I think that reframing is probably the ultimate superpower. So to let, okay, fine, flying would be great too, but to be able to open up a new possibility in someone's mind because you were able to reframe that so skillfully, and they're like, "Yeah, now I see." Now they're moving into a different kind of cathedral in their mind, and they're like, "Oh, I get it. Oh, that's how some weird quantitative math works? Oh." And then I'm making this up as I go, but it's like, "Wow, maybe I'm not bad at math. Maybe I just never really experienced the math cathedral before. And now it's lit up like a fuse inside me, and it's like, oh." So to ignite interest and possibility inside of other people, there's a thing I could do for the rest of my life.
Do you still are you still working as a coach for TEDx for speakers?
No, no, it's been a few years. I do get people coming to me because they want to do a TED Talk. The thing about TED is TED's not for everybody. TED is a long, hard, arduous process, and you have to make a lot of sacrifices with your time. Also, when people want to do a TED Talk because you could kind of, there's this little whiff of want to be famous, like, I want to do a TED Talk. I mean, it used to be like, I want to have a New York Times bestseller because then I'll have, made it. That doesn't appeal to me. But the ones who have this idea that's so potent and so big, it's like ripping out of their skin and they've got to get it into the world. Now there's a TED Talk.
Wonderful. So entrepreneurs often try to communicate everything about themselves at once. I know that because I listen to a lot of
Bet you
people
do.
and they want to tell you everything at once about how they'll make everything better. So what's one misconception people have about what makes a truly powerful message?
Well, first of all, I have to own up to the fact, like last night I gave my first master class and it was, it was like Niagara Falls of blurt, exactly what I tell people not to do. So even those of us who know better, it's hard to figure out what to include and then what to let go of. So the discernment piece of messaging, and whenever I'm in a Zoom meeting and somebody shares and keeps sharing and keeps sharing and goes on and on and on and on. So one of those license plate phrases, oh, she loves to hear herself think. But I think a lot of us, and I'm one of those, are verbal processors. So we know what we think when we're speaking it. But if you're sharing who you are with people, the trick is discernment. And it's actually a kindness because nobody wants to be, monologued all like blah, like this word vomit where you just kind of wait till the record comes to the end and finally it stops. So if somebody is trying to explain all of who they are and all of what they do all at once, people won't be able to hear it all. Like we'll just tune it out because for self-preservation and because our brains are wired to do that. Like, okay, that was enough. It's funny, Jeannie, I think of this elevator pitch kind of scenario. That's a very common one in messaging. What's your 1-minute elevator pitch? I have a different vibe about it. I think that it's really interesting have you ever been to a tapas restaurant when you're having those little small plates of yummy, delicious, like beef short ribs, and then a minute later they'll give you the plantains and the black beans. They're little plates with a few bites. And they might bring 3 to your table, and then you eat them, and then you're talking to each other, and then time goes by, and here comes another plate or two, like, here comes that chicken mole one. So I think a good elevator pitch is like good tapas. You have a bite, and you digest it, and then you wait for the other person to ask a question. So one way to stop saying everything is give them a little bit of an appetizer. One of the ways I like to do that in an elevator speech is to ask a question first. I'll use you as an example. I'll just try this out. Have you ever wanted to be on a podcast? And then with a question, I might say this about me. Have you ever struggled to find the right words to say? Or somebody who sells Christmas trees. Have you ever bought a Christmas tree and it died within a day? So when I ask a contextual question like that, then I'm kind of planting a thought bubble in the mind of the other person where they're going, okay, now I know what we're talking about. So instead of here's about me and me, and blah, 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 how about me? I'm giving them something first. In other words, it's here's the menu. What would you like? Ah, thank you. Have you ever been in a triathlon or known someone who was in a triathlon? Then I'm going to go, I've never been in a triathlon. No, me neither. But it lets the listener put a context in it. Because then if I said, have you ever wanted to be on a podcast? And then the listener would go, and I'm making this up, right? Yeah. Or, God, no way. But let's say it's yeah. Then I'm ready. And now you've waited. And I might go, yeah. Then you could say, I have a podcast called Project Candor, and we do things a little differently. Stop. The other person, now I'm moving on to the other tapas plate. Really, differently. How? And then you can tell how you do it differently. And that becomes a conversation instead of just a pitch. Because a pitch can often be getting pelted with a billion snowballs all at once, and you're kind of ducking and wondering how you're going to get away.
Right. Well, as you're talking, I'm thinking of being from the project management realm in my career for many, many years, and even the technical side of things for a long time. It's almost like a modular approach. I don't know if you ever programmed, but
yes, it is kind of a modular.
Right. And I think
it's like you're building Legos together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good concept. So, you don't go in there with all your modules and throw them at the project. I mean, you're looking at how do they fit together, and then which one do we need to do first and which one comes next, or how can we switch them around? So I think when an entrepreneur is out there, they should compartmentalize or do a modular approach to, incite people or to get people excited about what they're doing. Just like you were saying, you asked, absolutely. That's why my mind was forming that, because you were saying, just drop a little and wait, and then drop another piece as the tapas are going by. Just don't get confused and go to the Brazilian steakhouse, because they come by flying with all that meat and everything. I'm always turning my thing over. No more, go away.
Okay, that sounds fun. So you're making me think of a thing that happened with my kid when he was little. I remember probably 8 to 10. There was these cards called Magic the Gathering. Were they called that? Well, first of all, it was a Pokemon card. Let's use that. People know that. Now, when two kids, what I learned was they would build these card decks and they would battle with them. And the card decks were very deliberately laid out, kind of like a baseball lineup. Okay, my first batter, she's got this, but my fourth one, that fourth one is they're going to clear the benches kind of thing. So in the card deck, they were crafted to battle a card at a time. And so in a Pokemon game or Magic the Gathering game, and I'm making this up because I'll get it wrong, they don't take that card deck, they don't do that. Remember that 52 pickup? Now go pick them up. That's just going to slam somebody. So we're going to very deliberately craft that first bite that we give somebody. And we want to wait for them to taste it and go, and then reflect on it, and then give us something back. And then we're going to riff on that thing. Like, yeah, wow, that bite tasted, was there some asparagus in there? Yeah. Then I can go on. It's like, that asparagus I just got at the farmer's market yesterday. Really? And then now I'm having a back and forth instead of a wah, wah. In Charlie Brown, wah, wah, wah. Charlie did that. We don't want to be those people.
Right. Well, I've got one more question, then we want to shift over to playing our game, but I really want to know a little bit more about you in particular. So when you're not helping others shape their stories, what sparks your creativity and what keeps your ideas alive?
The truth is, I love what I do so much, and it's kind of like I'm on this plane of paying attention to these things we've been talking about. Cathedrals and awe and connection and sound and frequencies constantly. And I drop into it from another realm when I'm working with somebody. So what do? It's funny. Like, look at your iPhone, look at the search history. What did you Google? And if you looked at my iPhone search history, it's like all these bizarre rabbit hole questions. I find a question and it just sweeps me away, and then I want to know more about it. Okay, so I like thinking about language and sound a lot. I live near Lake Tahoe. It's about an hour away from the high desert of Reno, up into the mountains, and I love going up there to hike. And if I can get any excuse to get in that lake and swim, I will. It's too cold now, but I could still go in. So
Do the Arctic plunge.
it's an Arctic plunge, but I've mastered the art of the perfect float. And my favorite time was this summer. I went in at about 5 a.m, and I don't think I've ever swum in the lake when there was pitch dark and a vault of stars, and you could see the Milky Way above. And if I looked this way a little bit, I could see black trees. And if I looked that way, I could see black trees. But I was just like held in this lake and this, dome of sky. So that's my fun.
So now you're making me think of the first time I met you and you told me to go listen to or get Keeper of the Stars. That sounds like part of that book.
That was a good book.
I took your recommendation, by the way.
Let's talk about that for just 1 second, okay? Because when we give somebody a book recommendation, we are giving them, like that Anna Lapwood did in the cathedral, we're joining them in this love kind of a thing. And like, really? Yeah. Or you tell somebody about a movie you loved? Yeah. Or a restaurant? Yeah. Like we're shooting lightning across that wire.
Oh, well, that's nice. Because I did take your book recommendation. I haven't done the second book recommendation, but because that was a project, something I've got it written down. But
Oh, that was Project Hail Mary. That's another good one for anybody.
I tried to get my husband to get it, but he's got like 1 million in queue on his Audible. Yeah, well, thank you. I like that. Well, Brynn, it's been wonderful getting to know the mind behind the message. But now we're ready to open a different kind of door. Our guest has given us 3 story headlines, 2 true and 1 that's not quite true, or maybe a big fat lie. I'm going to bring them up on screen, and so you folks that are watching can see them, and I'll read them out for people that are just listening. This episode is sponsored by Rebel 180, the home of brave pivots and fresh starts. Rebel 180 is all about helping you rediscover what's possible when you stop settling and start listening to that little tug inside that says, life can be different. Whether you're navigating a career shift, dreaming about a new direction, or standing at the crossroads wondering if it's time for your own 180-degree turn, Rebel 180 is a reminder you don't need permission to change your story. And now, as we open the door to our second sponsor, we're stepping into the world of tech. Simple Socket Print, the lightweight, blazing fast label print solution designed for those who need reliability without the bloat. With version 1.5, you get instant printing in milliseconds, fully maintained print sequence, and automatic base 64 decoding, all without needing print driver installs. If you're running SQL Server 2016 or newer, Simple Socket Print 1.5 drops right in and gets to work. Keep your workflow simple. Keep your label printing fast with Simple Socket Print.
Thank you to our sponsors.
Here we go. Number 1 story.
All right.
Letter, legal, or pant size. As a college freshman, Brynn broke a Xerox machine with her butt. It belonged to the athletic director. Don't tell me yet. I'm just reading them through. So there was the time when Brynn built a 40-foot cello with a local artist legend. And then I've got Burning Man in brackets you had on your headline. And finally took the TEDx stage to tell about it. All right, the third story or headline you gave us, didn't know yaks in Nepal played Frisbee. Neither did Brynn, but there she was, Everest Air, a rest day, a giant boulder, and one very unexpected discovery. So I'm going to guess, and what I'm going to guess is that number 1 is a lie, but don't tell me yet. I want you to go through all the stories and let everybody get to know a little bit about you personally, and then we'll reveal at the end.
I was a freshman in college and a rower. And in a cruise shell, your feet are locked in what we call footboards, and you're sitting on a sliding seat. And we kept having our legs go numb, our butts go numb, because the holes in the seat, which are shaped like this, and a hole in the middle, we thought maybe the holes are in the wrong place, like where men's butt bones are. So we sneaked into the athletic director's office and one by one whipped down our shorts. Yes, we had underwear on. Jumped onto the Xerox machine, jumped down. The next person jumped up. I was the last person. Jumped up and heard this crack. And then I heard someone say, "Oh God, Breuner broke the Xerox."
Well, what are we going to do with those? Like lay them over the holes to see if...
We were going to send them to the boat builder and say, "Fix the holes."
Oh, okay. That was kind of a ingenious approach. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I've seen people jump up there. Well, I've seen people jump up there without their underwear. So you didn't have to put that disclaimer on there.
Boy, there's a little TMI, right?
Okay, number 2. What about this 40-foot cello?
So I had an idea, and it goes along maybe with this cathedral thing that we've been talking about. What if you built a cello that was so big, you could, maybe one of the little curvy side panels would come down, and you could climb up inside it and close it back up. And then when somebody drew the bow across those strings, you would experience yourself as part of the instrument. And if you could do that, if you were surrounded by and suffused by music, if you were the instrument yourself, what would not be possible? So I live in Reno. Burning Man is just the next stop out on the playa. And there are people here that build huge sculptures and structures. And I knew exactly the right person to go to, because of all the times that I've heard, I want to do a TED Talk, I realized that's the one that I want to tell.
What about the number 3 story in Nepal? You were with a group of friends or something? Give us that story.
In 1989, I was invited by 2 friends, one of whom was my karate instructor, and her husband, who had been on the Everest expedition in 1963. He was the team doctor to go to Everest Base Camp. Another karate person, a friend of mine, Jessica, came with us. So we were 4. And as we made our way, like we fly into Lukla, which is the scariest airport in the world, and walk days and days and days, we get a rest day. And we were up high enough that the people that we were Tibetan villages. So we took a rest day and we did our laundry, and which froze instantly in the line. And we took a walk, and there was these, enormous, great, like there's Ama de Blanc, there's Everest up ahead, still days and days away. Vast granite boulder with a flat top. So we climbed up there to see what we could see. And on the top was speckled with yak patties, dried yak shit that they would use as fuel. So my buddy Jess and I we decided to play a little Frisbee. And suddenly, up over the edge of the rock, this rock was like a house. And up over the top come these two Tibetan women, and they're stealing our fuel. And then when they saw what we were doing, they just burst out laughing.
Well, in country places, they do have that cow patty sling or whatever, toss or whatever. Big
Cow
old
patties here?
cow patties. Oh,
Well, that's because it's too high for trees. We were above the tree line, so there was no other fuel except for yak dung.
oh. I didn't know they crawled up that high. I guess so. But you were in Tibet. That's where my favorite dog breed
It's
comes from.
Nepal. Tibet was just on the other side of Tibet's just on the other side of Everest. I was in Nepal.
Oh, you were in Nepal. But my favorite
Tibetan
dog
people
breed
have-
comes from Tibet. They're the Lhasa Apsos. I don't know if you saw any of them. They're called mountain dogs. But interesting. So was it cold?
Oh yeah. I mean, we did our laundry and hung it on the line, and the wind would blow, so all of our socks and underwear were like horizontal.
Yeah, so it was cold. So did you wear gloves? I wouldn't be touching these things.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember? You didn't care at the time. It was just all in having fun. All right, so let's see. All those 3 stories. I already guessed that I thought number 1 was wrong. So you tell us, what was the lie?
The lie was the TED Talk. I have never done a TED Talk.
Oh, okay.
No. The Xerox, I definitely broke that Xerox with my butt. Kids, right? So I never did do a TED Talk, but I always thought that if I did, I'd want to do it on the 40-foot cello. And I knew there's builders around here that could do that. But my son, who played the upright bass at the time, said, Mom, so they have a thing, so there's a cello, and the next size up is the bass, right? And they've got something called the octabass. And I went and looked it up, and it's an octabass, and I think the full instrument, including the neck, is 11 feet high. What I didn't realize is when something is that big, the strings, you draw the guy has levers to, when you're playing a stringed instrument and you hold your fingers to play the chords. It was 11 feet high, so we couldn't reach it. So I think there's only a few. Look it up, octabass. But here's what happens. When the bow is drawn across something that big, here's what it sounds like. It sounds awful. It sounds like an alligator in death throes. So if I was going to make a cello 40 feet high, that would change the tone of the strings even more. So what I decided that I wanted was to keep that idea in my head. And it's been about 6 years that I've been mulling that over. I don't know that I ever need to build that cello, but the idea of being an instrument is still so fundamentally true to the work that I do and what I see in other human beings, that if we could be like the full instrument that we are, I just feel like there's just nothing we couldn't do. So that was my lie.
Okay. Well, I thought it sounded really plausible, and I like the story of the 40-foot cello, but thank you. So I know people, it's been a great talk with you, and I know people are going to want to get in touch with you. So I'm going to put on the screen how that they can contact you. And I also want to say, you have a brilliant quote out there that I thought folks should listen to or hear. You've got brilliance in your bones. Let's find the words that do it justice. Where did you come up with that?
Yeah. Just pulling one of those threads, Jeannie. All together, you pull them, and what's revealed is the absolute brilliance that each person has. And a lot of times we just don't see it. So if I could be your mirror and help you see what's true, then that's what I love to do.
Great. I know you have contact information here, and then you have that grab your gift offer, which is where you kind of talk through that with people that want to reach out to you. Is that correct?
Sure. So what I'd love for y'all to download is, we talked earlier about when is your ideal client, like when is something happening? And I've identified 6 of the most common times that a business is changing. When you have a new offer, when you have a new client, when you have a new delivery system, like you're going from brick and mortar to online, for example. Or this year for me, I've stopped helping people become thought leaders and I've started training as a speaker. So that's a different delivery system. There's a shift in positioning, the space that you occupy in your client's mind. There's a shift in thought leadership. And finally, the final pivot that I talk about is a pivot that's into more visibility. But there's another pivot that underlies all of them, and I see it over and over and over again. And this is probably my favorite part. It's a shift in identity. We become bigger. We become a more expansive version of ourselves. And so with those evolutionary shifts in our business, they all have to be wrapped up in new language that takes our clients along with them. So the pivot playbook at that link that says pivot map, that's what I used to call it. Please grab that and just see if one of those pivots sort of resonates with you. And then if you want to, you're welcome to book a pivot plan session with me and we'll talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you again for being on the show. And hopefully you'll come back sometime so we can dig in more.
It's been a total pleasure. Thank you, Jeannie, so much.
Bye for now.
All right. Take care.